This episode is brought to you by Sanhua and Mike's. They don't work because they're from China and they're possibly made out of fetuses.
Yeah.
Learn that lesson, guys. Yes, that's right. It's not working. We're not even lying. And it's not because it's not connected.
It works less when it is connected.
We are going to be sponsored in this episode, though, by Lord, apparently, because she's somehow looming over your shoulder, not mine.
Yep.
I'm kind of jelly.
Yep.
Gotta admit.
Big ass ankles.
You know, I get the ankle end. That's not the ankle. God, imagine. I got the ankle end.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not going to talk about ankles or fucking shitty mics from shitty China. No, we're going to talk about the 80s for a little bit here. And that's just to let you know that in the 80s, all the buzz was around one Robert Englund.
Yeah.
You know, everybody loved Robert, man.
Yeah, Bobby.
And you know why they... Oh, Bob.
Yeah, Bob Eng.
Bobby Eng, they call him.
I like to call him Bobby Brits.
You know why they called him that, though? Bobby Brits, I mean.
Yeah.
No, you know why everybody was all about the Bob?
Yeah.
Why is he Bob now?
I don't know.
Everybody was all about the Bob because he was Freddy fucking Krueger, man.
Yeah, he was.
If there ever was a bigger icon of horror, I don't know who he is. Yeah. You might say, oh, well, Michael Myers. Fuck that fool. Yeah. He sucks. His movies suck. Except for the first one. It's pretty damn good. And then part 3, but he's not in that. So who cares? But the point is, there is no bigger icon, really. He became so popular, not only among horror fans, but the mainstream, that Robert Englund could not be separated from the dude.
Yeah.
To this day, people just go, oh, that's Freddy.
Yeah.
He can't escape him, man.
Robert Englund is Freddy.
Yes. And here's the thing, man. Robert, I'm sure, Bob, I'm sure at one point was like, dude, I gotta be something else but Freddy.
It's not good.
So he tried, man. There were several attempts. But like I said, to this day, he has not escaped the phantom of Freddy. And I'll tell you why. Because he is Freddy. And let me tell you, the people that brought you an adaptation of Gaston Leroux's Phantom of the Opera in the late 80s tried to help out. Oh, no, wait, they didn't. Because the poster literally said Robert Englund was Freddy. Yeah. But now he's the Phantom. And look, all the TV spots for this shit were blatant.
It was
a new nightmare.
Freddy's here.
Shit, man. Are you Freddy for this?
Yeah.
He was. It was bad, man. Look, Phantom of the Opera 1989 is a woefully overlooked adaptation of the Phantom of the Opera story. One of the most classic stories in horror fiction. I'm loath to call the book classic literature. It is a well-regarded book by fans of books and horror, but nobody's gonna ever really say this is on par with like Victor Hugo's works or you know, not even fucking anything postmodern or anything like that. You know?
Hayden?
No, it's just this was literally like a serialized pulp novel, you know, that was put together. It's gruesome, it's gory, it's overly dramatic, you know, has very gothic overtones, and I'm not talking the Shelley range. I'm talking like, you know, gothic literature was full of tropes.
Yeah.
That's what the book was. And, you know, for better or for worse, we've gotten 1,000 Phantom stories throughout time. Old Bobby Eng was hell-bent on being the Phantom.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that this movie, 1999's Phantom of the Opera, just kind of happened by circumstance. Menahem Golan
Oh, wow.
was...
that was impressive.
He's a fucking... It's a weird... Who the fuck is called Menahem, first of all?
That's kind of an awesome name.
Menahem Golan of Golan and Globus Productions had just done a production where they had all these sets.
Yeah.
You know, including, you know, some theater sets. So they were like, hey, you know, because we're cheap bastards, what can we use these sets for? And somebody just threw out Phantom of the Opera, and all of a sudden it got thrown into production, and it was rushed into production. And where's our director? And they finally found a director, and who's our actor? Oh, Freddy, of course.
Yeah, Bobby Brits.
You know, so this movie came together as kind of a patchwork effort, but the passions behind it were very well intentioned, and that mostly falls on the writer, the director, and Robert Englund, who were hell bent on making something that wasn't what the standard Golden Globus productions would churn out. The results The results are... let me just put it this way. This is my favorite Phantom adaptation. And there's, like I said, a gazillion. There's the classic Universal. There's the original on Shaney, which a lot of people just credit to Universal, but it was pre-Universal.
Yeah. They've yet to release it, surprisingly.
Yeah. There's, of course, the Hammer versions. There's the musicals, all that shit. There are so many fucking Phantom. There's the offshoots like Phantom of the Paradise, which are just, a take on it. Tons of Phantom stories out there. This is my favorite for a variety of reasons. One, it blends kind of the highlights of all of them into one movie. This owes a lot to the later Phantom stories in Universal. It owes a lot in terms of visuals and style to the Hammer movies. It also surprisingly throws in elements that were only present in 80s movie. The high gore and body count and stuff like that. Which a lot of stuck-up critics were like, oh, that's not my Phantom. Well, they clearly didn't read the book, because the book is bloody as fuck. And he's killing left and right. It also introduced elements that weren't really present before, i.e. a supernatural element. The Faustian element, which... although Faust, the play, is actually in the book and in the story, they tied that in and made kind of like a juxtaposition of his story to that of Dr. Faustus. So they had all these crazy elements and they mashed them all together. And to me, anyway, it just came out the other end being everything Phantom, being everything 80, being everything Hammer, being all these elements just somehow gelled. And it's surprisingly loyal to the book, despite how many changes and little switcheroos here and there that it possesses. So we're going to talk about this movie, which I think is overlooked as fuck. It is. I mean, just by the fact that Robert Englund was Freddy, it becomes overlooked. We're going to talk about it because we watched it recently. Was this the second time you watched it?
Yeah.
Okay, it was the second time you watched it. I don't know what you thought the first time.
I don't remember. Honestly. I don't know it was a long time ago.
What you thought this time, but that's what we're here to do. We're gonna talk the pros and cons of this bad boy. Already putting my cards out on the table. I love this movie. I have an unabashed love for it. Is it a perfect movie? Of course not. It's an 80s movie. Come on, but the book's not a perfect book. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's
pulp. You establish your hate for it.
It's pulp. it's gritty. It's unnecessarily over the top at times. So yeah, there's that to take into account. But anyway, what did you think? Just off the top, what did you think of this movie? What was your impression of it? Hit me with it. and how was Bobby?
Bobby was pretty great.
Was he like, oh, boy, yeah. Bobby boy?
I like the part when he comes in and everybody in the upper house just goes, boy.
It was great.
Yeah, it's a really long scene too.
People are going to be looking for that. Like, when does that happen?
Yeah. No one watches these.
No.
Anyway, I thought it was pretty good. I think it has some issues. At least for me.
We'll talk about that right now.
But I think overall it's a pretty good experience to watch.
This is a movie that I wore the rental tape out to, because there was nobody else renting this shit. I wore
Maybe Bobby Yang.
I wore the rental tape out. They replaced it. I ended up buying that rental tape. Later, when the DVD came out, I had to get that. This came out, I had to get it. I chose it over something else, which would probably be like, why? And that's Deep Rising.
Treat.
I love this movie, man. I unabashedly love this movie for all those aforementioned reasons. It does capture all these elements. Foremost is that it's like a Hammer movie amped up to like 10. It has all those elements of a Hammer movie. And then so look, I'm going to just throw out my first big pro here, and it's Robert Englund. He clearly loved the role, and he was clearly engaged in it, and he manages to kind of walk a tightrope between the Phantom of the book and all the other adaptations, which is kind of like an empathetic character. We get that for the bulk of the movie, but the fact that this Phantom is who he is, not because of circumstance of birth or situation, it's because his desire for his music to grow beyond him.
It's kind of a butthole.
Yeah, it was selfish.
Yeah.
He became the Phantom because of selfish desire to be famous, basically. So he's empathetic in what he wants, which is company, which is love, which is all that stuff that the Phantom wanted in the book and the previous
But
adaptations.
he's also a butthole.
But he's also a butthole because in the end he's selfish. And so he walks that tight line, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool how they did that. I love that old Bobby Englund really chewed into that, bit into that a whole bit. And I'm going to just throw out a quick second one. The Faustian element in this is a big favorite because it does add a completely different flavor to it. And it gives you reason for him to be both empathetic, an empathetic character, and a complete piece of shit at the same time. You know, he made a pact with the devil.
Yeah.
And it just really sets up everything, including the bookends, which are set in modern time. It really ties everything together in a completely unique way that surprisingly was kind of laid out in the book but never touched upon. So it's not like they just took that out of their ass. The guy that worked on the script for this did his homework, and he brought enough of these elements to life that weren't even touched upon, even though they were kind of mentioned in the book. And I really appreciate that. But anyway, give me one of your pros.
One of my biggest pros, just to add to what you were just saying, midgets are in this, specifically one, satanic midgets. I'm a big fan of midgets. Actually, no, I don't really like midgets, but when they work, they work. And this little midget was kind of cool. But also, Robert Englund was great. I can't even,
Yeah.
I know you said it already, but you gotta,
He's awesome,
yeah,
dude.
you have to.
He's great.
I think without him, this movie wouldn't be a movie.
Yeah, and look, it's awesome you say that because this is a very Phantom-centric movie. In other adaptations, the Phantom is a character that everybody talks about, and the movie centers more on the people. This is the Phantom, the movie. You spend the bulk of the time with the Phantom and or seeing the results of his actions. So, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been a movie without him. And the fact that he's so good at it only escalates it.
I also like it's weird because the makeup they went with is basically just his face with exaggerated features.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually kind of like how it looked.
Yeah.
So that was cool. That's another pro.
That's a big pro for me. The makeup was done by Kevin Yeager, who, of course, famously made Freddy, you know?
Yeah.
And he's, of course, a legend of the makeup effects business, period, to this day. And Yeager worked well with Englund. You know, they brought he brought him onto the project. And that's fantastic because the effects are pretty awesome in this. They really don't hold back. They don't go, over the top, fucking Dead Alive style here. But there is plenty of gore and gru thrown around, which I know turned off some critics, as I said before. But again, the book is pretty gruesome, man.
Yeah, it does kind of give it a weird, kind of low-browy feel.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't mind it. I could see someone being like, "Oh, this is weird, though."
Yeah, and see, that's why I really, really love this movie because that's exactly what the book is. People look at... A lot of people don't read, let's just be honest. So they're like, this is literature, and it's considered literature. I mean, it is. It's a fucking book. By default, it's literature. It's classic because it's old and it's still remembered. But like I said, it's pulp. It's gruesome. It's grisly. It's grotesque at times. Melodramatic, And midgets. I think the movie really captured that pretty damn well, Adding this kind of slashery feel to it kind of benefited it, which is another pro for me. This Phantom is given a lot more substance. Again, with that Faustian element, it gives him a reason beyond just, like in the book, he's just a deformed guy, basically. Here's a reason. He was an artist. He had passion. He had desire. And now he's embroiled in this. On top of that, they kind of insinuate that since they moved the events from Paris to London, they kind of insinuate that he is kind of like a Jack the Ripper type, because his mask is not the traditional mask of the Phantom. He sews skin into his face to mask his features, so he kills for the skin. And he goes out and murders these people a la the Ripper, It's pretty cool, man. And they sewed all these different elements into it that are pretty cool, and I really appreciate
Like
that.
a face?
Like a danged old face. Hit me with another one, man.
I'll give you a con.
Well, we'll get to cons right now. Go the positive.
I'll give you a pro. I really like the parts where Robbie Yangs is talking in that voice. That's a really cool voice. I don't know what the hell that was. So I guess I'll give it a pro to the voice effect that they came up with.
It does
not so much the sound effects in the movie because it was very loud.
When he's kind of acting like the angel to Christine.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, because it propels the idea that he's something ethereal.
Yeah.
All the more, and those elements are in the book now. But again, they're giving more substance with there actually being a supernatural element here. So yeah, I really like that, man. It gave him a mysterious presence, even though he's so visible throughout.
Yeah.
Because you understand how they see him versus how we see him. So that was I agree, very good. Another thing I really like about this is that it has a neo-gothic feel. It doesn't lose that gothic feeling that the Hammer movies had, but it's very postmodern as well. You know. I did a little research on this thing, and apparently goth girls have there's a huge goth girl following to this thing. You know, and I can see that. You know, it has kind of like that Bram Stoker's Dracula feel to it. The romanticized villain that's still villainous.
Yeah, he's the butthole.
You know, as compared to how he was just plainly romanticized, especially in the Andrew Lloyd Webber play and stuff like that. He's a villain still, you know, so it's pretty cool, man. Another thing I have to point out as a pro is the Phantom in this is, of course, a musician, as he is in all of them. So they had to create an original piece of music for this. And I gotta say, the music piece they chose is pretty fucking memorable, man. At least for me. It's one of the things that stuck out. And you know, it's a continuing thread throughout. And they use it for storytelling purposes, especially towards the end. And it was just cool, man. It was just cool to see that.
Yeah, especially the '80s MIDI version.
Even that was cool, man.
Yeah,
that scene was pretty awesome, man. You know, I like that, man. I really like that. Another pro for me is the kind of the bookend setup. It does start in modern times, and you know, it ties in. It's basically a memory type of thing that happens here. You know, if you haven't seen it. And it ties in back at the book and at the ending in modern times. And that was all super cool. That was actually kind of forced on them, but I thought it worked excellently because there have been pieces of literature added to or books added to this mythology where the Phantom is in New York. So they were kind of setting up a sequel. Unfortunately, it failed. But anyway, any other pros you can think of before we move on to the cons?
No, I'd say you've said all mine.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw out another one, and it's
not the Dario Argento one.
What? Well, no. Fuck me,
yeah,
man.
That's the biggest pro.
I also kind of like how they threw the Ratcatcher into this.
Yeah.
Look, there's some. If you're familiar with the book or the previous stories, they do some switching around here and there. Christine Day is an American ingenue. It kind of added an element because she's kind of portrayed as she should be, as kind of like this bright-eyed innocent, you know, kind of like at awe in the world she's in. Adding the American element to it just kind of furthered the motivations of other people towards her, like the critic or the diva, La Carlotta, you know. So that was pretty cool. I really liked that little switcheroo there. Again, I already mentioned how much I like the stuff they do with the Phantom. The supporting characters are all kind of given a little switch too. The Ratcatcher is employed in a different way that I thought was pretty awesome. And you know, they introduce we have the detective coming in, taking the place of a character that's more known as the Persian in the novel. All that stuff was pretty cool, man. They just added something fresh. It paid homage to like stuff like the Hammer stuff. Pretty cool. Plus Bill Nye's in it in an early role.
Yeah, that was weird.
Being Bill Nye as only he can be. So that's pretty cool.
Not Bill Nye.
Yeah, not Bill Nye the Science Guy. Although Bill Nye should play Bill Nye as a complete prude.
Yeah.
I would watch that. $10. Plop it up. Last pro. The Red Death scene is always kind of like the highlight of Phantom movies for me. Phantom movies.
Slime Evil.
It was just super cool, man. It was a really nice looking scene. It's always like that big central piece for a lot of fucking Phantom movies, so that was cool. But anyway, let's talk about the cons here, man. Hit me with your first one.
Uh, this movie has kind of bad sound effects, and bad kind of sound just in general. I don't really know why. Maybe it was just this version, but I have a feeling it's something with the movie.
Well, no, you have to take into consideration that it's a miracle that we even got this released.
That's a good point, yeah.
In any condition at all. So they didn't remaster it.
Yeah,
they don't have the original elements, nothing like that.
It's kind of got that, like if you ever get like a made-for-TV movie from the early 90s or something on DVD and it kind of just sounds really noisy. It's kind of got that sound to it, which stinks. But I guess it's not really a con against the movie. It's just the condition
it's
that
just
we
what
got.
We have.
Yeah, it's just what we got. Also, there's this one scene where the Phantom goes all ninja in the alley. That shit was hilarious because of the sound effects.
No,
he's like,
I don't know if you'll agree with this. But
it was a pro. I'm not gonna lie.
The scene's awesome.
Yeah,
but the effects are like, what the fuck? Why is he?
And it never happens again. It's just suddenly he's in a freaking 1970s kung fu movie.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
Exaggerating here for those of you going like, what the fuck? Are we gonna see some fucking chop sake? No, but he's like a fucking appearing here, appearing there. He's
he like walks and it goes.
Yeah, it was weird, man. But yeah, okay. Well, I'll hit you with I guess a minor con, if you will, and again, stress. This is just probably nitpicking for me, and it's that it's evident that the bookends were shot later.
Yeah,
because the characters that the idea is of kind of like you're doomed to live your life again until you get it right. Or in the case of the Phantom, he's just doomed to live his damnation forever. That's kind of the idea, the crux of the movie. And that means that the characters in modern times should reflect those in the past.
Yeah, kind of like a Wizard of Oz type thing.
Right. So her best friend is played by Molly Shannon in the 80s.
Yeah.
But in the past, she's like
some random chick.
Some chick that,
English
is English and pretty. No offense to Molly Shannon, but yikes!
I'd hit it.
I hit it with a 2x4.
Yeah, she's not hot. But...
So that's a nitpick, but it is evident that was a thing that happened there. So just putting that out there. Hit me with another con if you got it.
I think that overall, since you just said that is in the book, I don't even feel comfortable calling it a con.
Well, go ahead.
But there is kind of like a gross feeling to it,
Mm-hmm.
like like you said, I don't think it went overboard with the violence, but it does feel kind of just added in at times. But they do it well, but it's just one of those things where it's like, man, this little guy's going around slashing every second.
I'll put it this way, and I get it, but critics had the same reaction.
Yeah. It just kind of feels weird with the rest of the movie at times.
And that was a criticism that critics had, valid or not. There was those that had it from a valid point of view, and there was those that were just like, it's a horror movie, so I'm gonna hate it. The gore and the killings are kind of in your face. It is in the killings that happen in the movie, for the most part, with a few exceptions, happen in the book, and they're gruesome as fuck. They actually don't have some of the killings in the movie, and so I guess I'll put that as one of my cons, is that I wish that this movie had enough budget to make one of the bigger spectacles of the book and a lot of the adaptations, and that's when the chandelier is cast down upon the audience and there's massive mayhem and murder. It would have been cool to see that, but it is a smaller budget movie. Make no mistake, the movie is pretty lavish and it is a costume drama. It doesn't look cheap. It looks like a costume drama should look. So that's cool. But those kind of elements go hand in hand. But that's kind of why I love it, because it does not back away. Like the book didn't back away. But I could see that turning somebody off that wants a more traditional Phantom, as they are used to it cinematically, I suppose. Anything else you got?
I think the main chick at times is not great.
I knew this was going to come up. And
I think for the most part she does okay, but there's parts where you're like, woo.
And I get it. Don't get me wrong. It's like at times she can sound wooden.
Yeah, she's like, Oh yeah, it's this like
Flighty?
innocent voice she has,
Yeah.
but it's weird at times.
But I can tell you this, it's intentional. You know what I'm saying? The characters, well, I mean, whether it's palatable to you or not, I'm just saying.
I think it's intentional the way it was played. I just think that at times she kind of like didn't pull it off well.
Yeah. The whole intent being that she's supposed to come off as the innocent.
Yeah.
And very traditional of Gothic style fiction, the innocents are flawlessly innocent.
Yeah.
And the bad guys are repugnantly bad. You know what I'm saying? So the intention was there. Like you say, yeah, for the most part, it works. But I could see people being like, what the... during certain scenes.
Yeah,
you know?
just like certain scenes, she'll say a line, you'll be like, woo.
Yeah. Maybe it's something that I've grown to love, like, or accept, or whatever. It doesn't bother me. And I really like the actress. I think... It's one of those, again, given the format, it's one of those where, you know, the damsel in distress thing kind of has to gel on a physical level as well, which was kind of like a thing in like Hammer movies and stuff. So it helps that she's pretty, you know. She's not bodacious and bosomy like the Hammer girls, you know, but she's pretty. So you could see the Phantom being all fucking stalkery and shit. P.S. Phantom's just a stalker. Let's just get through that. But anyway, the point is, do you have any other cons? I can't think of any really.
I think some, again, it might just be just the mastering, but sometimes the lighting's a little weird. But that kind of ends up correcting itself at the end. I don't know if I just got used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that might just be a version, you know, because it's not remastered or anything.
It bugged me. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but there you go. So be on the alert for that if that's your thing. I guess this is a product of its time.
Wait, I got one final freaking con.
Okay, hold on.
That guy's wig.
What guy's wig?
The guy that had the streak on his hair.
Oh,
there was a part where he's walking and his sideburns are just like hanging off the side. I was like, oh man, the wig.
Look. The wig is an issue.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, man. This is a product of its time, so it's you know, it might not be for everybody. You know, if you like 80s movies, this is definitely something you should check out. If you like Phantom movies in general, the Phantom of the Opera,
yeah, not Billy
Zane, do not slam evil. Then this is it's definitely something you check out. If you've read the book, by all means, check this out. This hits stuff that some of the other Phantom movies never hit. And, you know, it's just such an underappreciated thing. So, but I stress, modern people that are more used to modern horror might not just like it based on the aesthetics alone or the feel of it. It's just not for everyone. But this definitely deserves a bigger following than it has, even to this day. It's kind of still just forgotten. Case in point, even Scream Factory didn't bother to remaster it. They didn't bother to go search for the negatives, nothing like that. So there you have it. But let's talk about final thoughts on this and a rating. Hit me with it. Bobby is listening, by the way.
I think Bobby killed it in this flick. You know, it was cool. It was good because most of the movie is Bobby centric. So the fact that Bobby was freaking great in it is always a great thing. I thought it was pretty good. It's not perfect, but I get what it was going for, and that was cool enough. So you know, I would give it like a 7.
This is one of my
Pretty
favorite.
good.
This is one of my favorite movies, man. Like I said, wore out several copies. And again, it's my favorite adaptation of a classic story. Hits all the marks and does new stuff and reinvigorates an old story that's been retold 1,000 times in a completely unique way. Great cast. Love the imagery in this. Especially fond of the Faustian elements in it. Very cool. I think that's really what gives this its own life. Aside from, like you said, old Bobby Boy being pretty much in charge of this shit. You know, he puts it out there. You know, I would have loved to see more stuff from the director. He's kind of like a minor horror guy, you know, And as that happens, now he's just a TV director nowadays, as with most minor horror guys. But this movie was a flop, man, and it's sad that the reason was because Freddy, really. So I recommend this to anyone that loves Robert Englund, loves horror, especially of the time, and loves the Phantom. I'll give this an 8. I love this movie. It's awesome, despite its flaws. Check it out, folks, and tell us what you think. In the meantime, hit like, share, subscribe, those notification buttons, because we're outies.
Ready.